Hello, witchy people. I hope this is okay because I've lost my glasses. I can't see anything. Well, I can. I can see blurred shapes. So, as you can see, it looks pretty empty, and it is very empty. So, we are up to about the 2-week mark of moving, and then that's that. And it's a bit emotional, actually. Moving away from somewhere that I've become very, very used to, and yeah, so I've had to kind of detach myself, and that's very, very difficult. So, and how can I explain this? In detaching myself from one property, one home, to live in another, I would hope that I could attach myself to the new home. It does take me a while, I must admit, always has done. The problem being is it's not entirely my home. I can't have, say for instance, the pictures of my ancestors, my predecessors, along the hallway, because that would confuse Mary, my mother-in-law. So yeah, I can't really make it entirely mine because I'm sharing it with someone who needs this place as a connection to their past and their life. So I can't make it all mine. Anyway, I will say we were actually going through the bungalow a little while ago, and right, as let me quickly explain this. As you know, and for the anyone who doesn't know much about me, I have a problem with the veins and the blood flow into my brain. So the veins are closing up. It's kind of like vascular dementia, but not dementia because my brain is okay. So I haven't got Alzheimer's or anything like that. But I find it very hard to remember things, which is why I set up this channel. And I also find it quite difficult to remember if I've said things before. So bear that in mind. We were at the bungalow. If I've told you this before, skip the next 5 minutes. We were at the bungalow sorting out things, measuring up for windows, measuring up the windows for blinds and such like. And there was a rocking chair there, which, with cats around, I don't think it would be safe to have around. So especially not with grandchildren visiting and things. So I thought, no, right, we'll get rid of the rocking chair. It's not an emotional thing for Mary. It's not something that she really loves. She has a chair that she really loves, which we're keeping, but it's not the rocking chair. Anyway, so the rocking chair was in the hallway. It's quite a wide hallway, plenty of space. And I was in what is going to be and what was Mary's bedroom. And I was just sorting things out, and a movement caught my eye. And I thought, what the heck? Now, bear in mind, all the doors were closed, as in like the back door, the front door. There was no wind. There was no one else in the bungalow except for myself. And the chair was rocking. No one had been near it. I hadn't gone past it. It was just rocking in the hallway. And it wasn't just a gentle, like something had, like a breeze had knocked it. It was rocking. And I said, that's enough of that. Stop it. And it didn't stop dead. It just stopped. It was sort of like this, and it sort of went like that. So it didn't stop dead, but it did slow down really quickly. That rocking chair is now out the house. Sorry, Miss Lizzie. So yeah, my friend wanted a rocking chair, and she has the rocking chair. So it didn't bother me. I think the rocking chair was used by my husband's grandmother. She had dementia and Alzheimer's, and she was looked after in the bungalow by Mary. This light is terrible once again, isn't it? It doesn't look like I've got a nose. I have no nose. Anyway, so there was that. And on top of that, so I do like the fact that there is, how can I put it, activity at the bungalow, but I shall miss what I've had here and the connections I've had here. That's going to be something that I'm going to find very difficult to, once again, detach myself from. But it kind of got me thinking about how, even though many of us admit we don't like change, we would rather not have change, sometimes change can be, and often change can be a blessing in some ways. But upon that not liking change, having change thrust upon you, which I kind of had, because I would rather not have moved, to be honest. But it has been sort of thrust upon me, but I've accepted it. I've accepted that things have to change. And it's kind of made me think I have to reevaluate how I practice, as I said in my last video. And I have to kind of reevaluate, reassess, rethink. And I thought we got a lot of re's here. I have to reset. So I think I might start kind of like, and I know I've got so many series that I haven't finished yet, like, you know, the bone casting one, which I will do. I'll get around to it, don't worry. But kind of like things that we have to redo in our practice when things happen. It's like that. It's really bugging me. It's like there's a great big black mark under my eye. Things we have to reassess and redo, reevaluate. And it's even things like, although I'm still going to be in Hampshire, so the flora and fauna are very much like, and I'm going to somewhere where I know very well. I spent a lot of time in the New Forest. I've spent a lot of time in Burley, and I'm quite close to those places, very, very close in fact. Hythe is part of the New Forest district. So in that small change, moving from Southampton to the forest, I have to rewild in that and re-naturalise. In that, I have to get used to the differences. So things I can go out in my garden and pick now, I may not be able to do in the new garden. This is an almost, it's a southeast facing garden, so it's very much almost south. The other garden is more southwest facing, so it is going to have slightly different areas and slightly different things that will grow better or grow worse there. Obviously there are things that are well established in my garden that I have here that I won't have there. I do have the history there, obviously. Mary and Ron, who was my father-in-law, he used to be in a box up there because he died and was cremated. Sorry. People think I'm strange. I can understand why. So they found the bungalow, that the site that the bungalow is going to be built on, and watched it being built. They chose what was to go in there, like the fireplace and such like. They chose what kind of bricks they wanted. They chose what kind of cupboards they wanted and such like. And that was in I can't remember if it was 53 or 57. It might be 1957. So it has that history. Not a huge amount of history, but then that's about the time this house was built. And, you know, I can see that there are similarities there. So, but there is a history. Although it's Mary's history, I know that history. I know what kind of grows in the garden, that sort of thing. But I still have to rewild and renaturalise myself to what is going to be around me and available. And I think that's something that certainly, whether or not we admit or, you know, to global warming, because I know some people deny global warming and everyone's entitled to their opinion. With global warming and the way that we're building on land and taking away land and trying to redirect streams and rivers, even now, places are flooding, places are drying up. With all of this going on, there is certainly I can tell a difference between the weather now and the weather 40 years ago. And that's not a great time span, really. Okay, it's more than half my life, but with these changes, I can see a difference between now and 20 years ago. With these changes, I think you should get used to not depending on what you have. You have to re-naturalise yourself to what's around you and what's available. And don't get entirely sort of set in your ways about that. It's going to be something that you have to change and adapt and get ready for things to be different and, for things to disappear and for other things to reappear. For instance, when I was younger, we never had false widow spiders. We have a lot of them in this garden. Not as many as we did have. I do not like killing spiders. But I have been informed that false widows, although they are entirely virtually harmless to larger species like ourselves, to small beings like cats and rabbits and small dogs, they can cause quite a lot of illness and harm. And although false widows do not bite, or whatever they do, very often, they can do. So this is something I've had to get used to, and I don't like it. I admire the beauty of the spider. I do not like the fact that they can harm the animals that were here before them, because my animals have been here a lot longer than the false widows have come in. The false widows have only been something that have been like certainly the last 2 years, it's been something that's been noted in this. I never had them before. I'd never seen one of those sort of like almost like a funnel web. There's a small space between a wall and a light switch outside in my garden utility area. And in that small space, which is about an inch, about an inch, this spider had built its web, and they are very chaotic. It's a very chaotic web. It's not like a normal pretty spider web, They are very chaotic, and quite often because they are that chaotic and because they like to hide in their webs, they become funnel-like, but not exactly a funnel. It's a casing for the spider to hide in. And the spider that was actually there in that gap outside was probably the biggest false widow I had seen. It was about that big. And I haven't seen one that big, and I was quite surprised because I was like, that's huge. Anyway, this is what I mean by things change. Usually it's a very slow change around us, but like I said, due to climate change, I think something I would like to say, whether you are, you admit climate change is happening or climate change isn't happening, I think we have to all admit whether or not it's by human design. That's the question. Whether it's because of what we do as humans and what exactly it is that we're doing, that the climate will change, whether we intervene or not. Our intervention can make this obviously a much quicker process, not in a very good way, obviously. But whether you can admit it or not, climate change does happen, whether that's natural or not. Okay, so you can't be like a climate change denier, because climate does change. It's the way of the world. Obviously we had an ice age, going back in Roman times, which wasn't that long ago in the whole, scheme of time. A couple of thousand years ago, 1,500 years ago, up north, which is quite cold, you could grow grapes. Saying that, about 15 years ago, we could still grow grapes here, which was something that we hadn't been able to do for quite a while. We have had hot summers before. 1976 was a scorcher, but we also had in 1973 and I believe 1977 some really great snowfalls down here in the south of England. Climate will change, and whether it's slowly or quickly, I think is partly dependent on us. But if the governments were really serious about it, they would stop plane flights. Ta-da! You know. Okay, I don't want to be controversial here. Of course, I don't like giving my opinions on these things. And that's not what this video was going to be about. But whilst I've got time to chat, even though I should be cleaning my carpet, I will do so. So yes, I think, you know, there is climate change. What it's down to, personal opinion, you know, share or don't share, I don't mind. But there is climate change. And because of that, you have to get used to re-naturalising yourself. So getting used to your area again with what is available to you as a witch or as a pagan or a botanist even. But yeah, you have to get used to that. And it's almost like I haven't seen any false widow spiders in the garden at Hythe, and I hope I'm not going to take any with me. So, you know, that there are certain things, you know, my pets might be okay there, but like I said, I said in the last video, we have low flying bats, which is great. Obviously because the eaves of the house are much lower, because it's a bungalow, not a 2-story house. And yeah, so I'm just thinking of all the things that I'm going to have to get used to. There is a certain routine which almost becomes a rite every day of going to bed and climbing a staircase and counting the stairs. And for me, it's like with each stair going up to bed, it's kind of getting my head focused. And that's it's getting my head focused and or unfocused even, to get ready for bed and to try and get to sleep. Now it's going to be steps along a hallway rather than stairs going up. And I think having stairs very much keeps that sleep, work very much separate. Now it's all on one level, which is why I'm having a big shed in the garden when I move. Keep it separate. I need to keep that separate somehow, and having it in the same house, in the same level of building is going to be quite hard for me. I am rambling again. So yes, I think we need to, it's not something that I've thought much about before. I've always taken for granted, well, certainly for the past 17 years that I have lived here, taken for granted what is around me and what's available to me. And I should have been reassessing that constantly. I should have been reevaluating that constantly, like I said, because, like, you know, you've got false widow spiders in something we never used to have. In my old garden, we used to have snakes in the garden. Not something I have here. In the New Forest, we have adders and such like, and I know this because my last dog got bitten by an adder. If this ever happens to you in the UK, do not go onto all these sites. They say, oh yes, give them an antihistamine, they'll be fine. They can die. So please, if your dog gets bitten by an adder, even if it's a baby adder, like my dog did, please take them to a vet immediately. Immediately. Okay? This is something else I've got to get used to. But saying that, I do take the dog for a walk in the forest quite often. It's not an area that's completely alien to me. So yes, as I was saying, with all these things that change, things that, you know, I mean, when I was little, we were actually talking about, me and my husband were talking about this the other day. When I was little, I can remember in summer, cabbage white butterflies were everywhere. During the summer, they'd be flitting around, and it was just something normal. You'd see crowds of them in your garden. Go out in your garden, and we had a tiny, tiny front garden. It'd be like 20. Oh, look, there's all these. Now, I mean, this summer, I have seen, I think, 3 the whole of the summer. And that's really hard to get used to. You know, Bees. Don't see bees as often as you used to. Birds. I mean, I've been lucky here. We've got coal tits, blue tits, what are they called? Dunners. Obviously all the other magpies, ravens, seagulls, sparrows. I love sparrows. We have a robin in the garden. You know, that sort of thing should remain the same. I don't think that's changed much over the years, sort of like the birds we have, but we have much less of them, I've noticed now. Whether that's because we are getting more built up areas, I don't know. Where I used to live, which was sort of like closer towards the forest but not in the forest, I used to wake up to birdsong every night. Here, every morning. Here, every night, I yelp to the foxes. I hoot and have conversations with an owl. And these are things that I'm hoping I will get in the new place. But if I don't, it's going to have to be something that I have to rewild myself. Maybe I'll have to figure out, what to put out for bats. Should I put anything out for bats? I do have bats in my garden, but they don't come that low because they tend to nest in trees and stay up near the eaves of the buildings. Like I said, the eaves are much lower in a bungalow because it's only one floor. Anyway, yes. So I think we should rewild and renaturalise ourselves to the area, even if we don't move, because things change. And that's certainly something that obviously I've been thinking about because my environment is going to change. And it's something that I really should have thought about more often over the past years than I have done. And, I think as well, if you want certain things to come into your garden, into your environment, you have to allow them to come in, number one. Number two, as in don't block them. Number two, encourage them. Not just allow them, but encourage them. And obviously look up how to do that with the wildlife, flora and fauna in your area. Please do. Look up wherever you live, your local botanical society, that sort of thing. Obviously we've got the RSPB here and like the Forestry Commission and all that sort of thing, where we can look up. Wildlife Trust is another one, which tells you how to treat the wildlife, flora and fauna in your local area. Something else I've noticed, something else I have to say this quickly. Obviously everyone knows how much I love a bit of belladonna. Absolutely lovely. Now, deadly nightshade was something that was never seen very often when I was a child. Obviously there is some sort of growing in my garden, but round this area it's an extremely common plant. It grows in most hedgerows, by the side of roads, by the side of pavements, anywhere where there's a bit of green, we usually have a bit of deadly nightshade, a bit of belladonna, and that's very natural to this area. I don't think it is to the forest. The new forest, however, has a lot of rhododendrons and azalea type plants, which were put in there, especially on the sort of Exbury Bewley side, because people liked them and they planted them and they kind of went a bit crazy. Go to Exbury Gardens, you'll see it's all rhododendrons and azaleas and absolutely lovely. So yes, we do affect our environment, but we have to renaturalise ourselves to what we've got around us. I'm going to shut up now because I'm really rambling and I should just go and clean my carpet. Oh, I bought a new carpet cleaner. So I'm going to clean my carpet. Not for me, but for the people that are moving in next, because I don't want them to to come in and smell the stink of my dog. And the carpet's been down for 17 years. Quite a while. I mean, it has been cleaned before, but not in the last 10 years. Probably. Okay, I'm going. I really should clean that carpet. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Think about your environment and how to renaturalise and rewild yourself to it. And in that way, you can sort of like rededicate yourself as well to the area and your practice within that area. That's it. I'm going. Thank you very much, weepy people. Thank you very much, witchy people. I'm going now, and I hope to sit down very soon and that's my phone, and get used to get you used, as well as getting me used to the new place where I will be. See you soon. Bye for now.